The cannabis CBD sector over the last few years has really disappointed in terms of stock market performance, and you'd expect or think that has great potential to grow quite rapidly, and there'll be some big winners in there, but really it seems to be a bit of a struggle at the moment. So I'm always scanning for stocks to look at, and I'm going to have a look at one called Jupiter Wellness now. They're a very small cap stock, interesting setup there, and we're going to explain a bit more about them in the video. Take a look at the charts, throw in a few trade ideas and see where they could be heading next. So with that, let's crack on with the analysis. Let's do a bit of a background check first on Jupiter Wellness before digging into the charts. Who are they? Well, they develop CBD based medical therapeutics and wellness products, things for like burns, eczema, lip balms, that sort of thing, based out of Jupiter, Florida. Haven't been around for that long. And digging into some fundamentals, well, we've got no analyst ratings at the moment, no news sentiments, all pretty neutral here at the moment. There's not a lot of earnings history to go on, although the last one wasn't that great either. And in terms of social media, this is probably the more interesting one here. Been picking up a lot, as you can see, in terms of social media, so a bit more positive of late, as you can see from that chart there. So quite interesting data there, but fundamentally not all that great. So what about the charts? Well, we've got the weekly line chart for a longer term view. Like I mentioned before, not a lot of history to go on, only from late 2020 here, and you can see really, I suppose, the big takeaway from this chart is this huge collapse in price, down nearly 93%, almost virtually worthless as a stock, but it has since stabilized, and over the last few months it has been picking up quite nicely. You can see all the volume at this sort of range here, between 0 and 2, and obviously it's got to get up through there to then start pushing on through those other key Fibonacci lines. A bit more volume up here at 6, which corresponds to really where they sort of came into the market at, but you could say it's a consolidation zone in 2022 so far, and something to look out for with the technicals. And if we then focus in on the real short term for possible entry points, if you are bullish, then the 4-line break chart set up here, giving us a couple of numbers to get in at, and you're talking 0.863, 0.9275 for a potential bullish up move entry. And the daily high Kanashi, is that telling us anything different? Well, not really. We can see that trend on the way down. In terms of the signals, we got bullish DMI trend set up going in place, so that's pretty handy. But really, like this volatility, it's pretty massive really. You see all these spikes, these regular spikes, some of them around the earnings points. We're talking up there nearly 200%, and it has been climbing, the volatility, which is quite interesting when you compare it to the volume above that, where it's still not at its highs. It normally peaks around those spikes of volatility. But onto the price, the 2 pink line box breakout set up here, giving us this buy signal, so that's encouraging to the upside. We can see that sort of consolidation, cementing of the price around the recent all-time low in sort of June time there at just over 0.6. So really not much left into this downside before it becomes a nothing stock. So can we say the only way is up? Well, let's have a look at the Renko charts just to see a bit more of the short-term price action. So in terms of signals down the bottom, our DMI indicator is still bearish, and in the shorter term we've got the stochastics and the regression turning up, so a bit of a mix, bit of neutrality in the shorter term, and that's reflected in the price. So you can see this box area from August of last year through to now, and its lows down, as we mentioned, just above around 0.6, and we started just to move off the bottom here just ever so slightly. And in terms of potential price targets, well, to the downside, I can see it's virtually zero, nothing. There's not really much way further it can move south, but upside, so we've got to look what more positive than this Fibonacci line here, 2.27, 3.34, and just over 5, which takes you into that big sort of block of noise around sort of the April, spring, summer time of 21, before we saw this more recent collapse in the price. But over 22, it's been, as we just scroll through there, it's been, this is 22 here, it's been a bit more of a sedate standard year compared to what it's seen previously. It does have a lot of volatility, this stock, so it could produce unpredictable fast moves, so always be careful with this smaller type of stock. So what about trade ideas and where you can actually trade this stock? Well, it's a bit limited. There's no options on the underlying, so that's quite a lot of our strategy ideas out the window. So it's really a case of either long or short, and I wouldn't be shorting it because there's not much room left to the downside. So if you're going to trade this one, it's going to be off the back of a bullish perspective, and you're going to just be buying the outright stock. And I looked into my broker, Tiger Brokers. I'll put a link in below if you're interested in checking them out. See in front of you on the screen there the stock available to trade. So limited options, and really it's only if you're long and bullish the stock that it's worth the play. Now let's talk scores. Well, I've been a bit generous here for Jupiter Wellness. I'm giving them a neutral overall. I was erring between that and weak bearish, only because the conditions over 22 have seemed to stabilise, consolidated a bit more. There's some good volatility in there that could bring it back upwards, and that social sentiment that we talked about much earlier. Now you can see from the Heikin-Ashi chart there, top left, things like I say turning a bit more green, a bit more bullish, despite the trend still being weak. And the Renko, a similar story, although a bit weaker, you could say, with the trend still strongly down, despite, like I said, that consolidation period. But if you are bullish, top right, 4-line break chart, couple of entry points for you there. And drilling into those targets, well, it's only one way really that you want to be looking at this trade, and that's bullish. 5 to 1 and 8.88 to 1 to the upside, and 0.64 and 1.3 to 1 to the downside. I wouldn't really take on the risk of the downside if you could short the stock. That's even if you could actually short the stock, probably not available for many. So it's really, like I say, a bullish POV play, and at the moment looking neutral. So what do I think of Jupiter Wellness? Well, it's a tricky one. It's a risky trade to take on. There's no momentum in the general sector at the moment to help push it along, which can give it the wind in the sails that it might need. So like I say, bit of a risk. There's nothing really left to the downside, so shorting's out of the question. So it's for those really who have a positive POV bullishness on this stock. Let me know in the comments below why you'd be bullish on this stock. Love to hear from you. Are there any other stocks in the CBD arena worth looking at, and maybe I can turn them into a chart and video, and let me know. So with that, hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please hit the subscribe and bell buttons, and all that's left for me to say is thanks for watching, good luck with the trading, and I'll see you in the next video.